I'm thinking about sex and the production of children. And I'm wondering how many children who were born were intended to be produced, were intended to be created, and how many children were the unintended consequence of the pursuit of sex. So this is from a man's point of view. I'm wondering how that would work out. How many pregnancies were intended to be created? How many children were intended to be produced? And how many were the unintended consequence of the pursuit of sex? This is from a man's point of view. And I suspect, I don't know the details, but I suspect that most children who are produced were not intended to be created. I believe that they are the unintended consequence of the pursuit of sex from a man's point of view. I think that is interesting and difficult to understand, really. And it's the first time I thought about this. But I do think it's the case that most children were not intended to be produced. And that is interesting. So basically a man is not very much in control of his life. A man is used by nature to achieve the aim of producing children. Men are very much tools, and men are used by nature. So I think it is often the case that men are not in control of their lives. And I suspect, I don't know if there are any odds out there on this, but I suspect that most children created were not intended to be produced. But most children are the unintended consequence of the pursuit of sex from a man's point of view. And this is interesting and kind of worrying, I suppose. I'm not sure what this means exactly. But I suppose one thing it means is that men are not in control of their destinies very much. Men are used and abused by nature to achieve the aim of children. So I haven't thought from a woman's perspective. I'm just thinking of a man's point of view for now. So I do think that most children were not intended to be created. They were the unintended consequence of the pursuit of sex. So men do need to be very careful about sex and be concerned about their focus on sex. I know, for example, that I was focused on sex when I was a younger man. For some reason it was very important to me to be achieving sex. And I suppose I can't really explain it now. I know that nature just wants children to be created. And so it instills within men an intense desire for sex. So the desire within men is not for children, it is for sex. And then children happen anyway. So I do definitely think that most children who were created were not intended to be produced. This is a strange realization, but I think it is the truth. I need to look into it more, I suppose.